Donna Burke, welcome to the Tokyo Living Podcast.
Thank you for having me. What a delight.
Now, I usually start off these episodes by asking my guests to, give the listeners and viewers a little bit of background on yourself and tell us a little bit about your story. In your case, that's going to be the entire episode because you have such a fascinating story, and I think it'd just be really cool for people to hear all the different things that you've done throughout your time in Japan, and and how you've pivoted and been involved in so many different sort of industries, and you've used your skills in so many different ways. If we could just get started, start at the start. Where did you grow up, and what brought you out to Japan?
So I grew up in Perth. I'm one of seven children. I have a twin brother, and we lived quite an isolated life in the suburbs, but no family around. And when I was in my 20s, I taught high school English, religion, and media studies at a Catholic school. And then when I was about 30, I realized, and I was singing professionally, but very part-time. And I just thought, it's now or never. So I did the Aussie thing, went to Europe, OD'd on castles. So when I got a job in Japan, because I really didn't want to go back to Perth, no offense, Perth, but I was so sick of sightseeing that when I landed in Japan, people said, look at the Imperial Castle. It's like, nah. I was so over it. 3 months of travel. So I came to Japan in 96
Yep.
and didn't think I'd stay very long, so I didn't really study Japanese. But once I got here, I got so many amazing opportunities, which as a 31-year-old, I really knew, wow, this is incredible. So I've been
Yeah.
here ever since. It's a land of opportunity for me.
Wow. And just going back a few steps, when did you start singing? And did you come from a musical family? Did you just sort of
Oh,
start?
no, so, look, I don't know. I'm 50. I'm born in 64, and in back in my day, Sam, people did not give a shit about their kids. We were literally told, children should be seen and not heard. Shut up, go and leave my sight. Actually, my husband's older than me, and I say, did your parents used to say things to you like, "If I want the pigs, I'll rattle the bucket," or "If I wanted your opinion, I'd ask for it"? And he sort of looks at me with big eyes, like, "Oh, no, Donna, that's not normal. That's just parental neglect. That's not like, no." But
Right.
can you imagine? My parents were going crazy with these kids that they really shouldn't have had. So I was not encouraged, would be the short answer. And even on my website, donnaburke.com, check it out, the first page, I've actually got a quote from my mother. "Gee, Don, to think we used to tell you to shut up." So no, I was not encouraged. I never had a paid singing lesson until I started working at the age of 18, and I could afford a singing teacher. So I am if I get a freaking Oscar for singing or anything, it'll be like, I'd like to thank myself for encouraging myself, because it was not, yeah. Everyone's happy that I'm successful, of course, but yeah, it was just
Yeah.
survival
Yeah.
of the fittest.
Yeah. And so then when you moved over to Europe, were you doing singing related work over there, or what were you
No,
doing?
no, that was just sightseeing, and
Okay.
God, found out I freaking hate sightseeing. So, no, but I had this very, very big dream that it's even now. You feel even now, if you're a 20-year-old, let alone a 30-year-old, and you haven't made it, you sort of feel like a loser.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't sing until I got here and started getting singing work at weddings. And then from that, people say, "Oh, are you free for this TV commercial?" And then from the TV commercial to video game singing, which has launched my career internationally.
Yeah. Wow. And so how did that, how did it actually logistically happen in terms of the singing? Well, what sort of things were you, so you said you started singing at weddings. How did you sort of form those connections, and how did you get started there?
I think I answered a job in I don't know if it still exists, Tokyo Notice Board. and a singer. I remember there was a pianist was looking for singers to sing at Japanese weddings, which was a huge industry. And at the time in 1996, having a foreigner sing Amazing Grace, which in our culture would be a funeral song, it would just, but that was like, oh, that was that's so sophisticated. And I'd get like 330,000 yen just for singing a couple of songs. And if you did a few weddings a day, that's 120,000 yen. Just
Yeah.
So for the first time in my life, I'm like, oh my God, I'm rich. And it literally happened overnight. And as we all know, if you just work out that, be polite, show up on time, people think you're amazing and they want to work with you. And there wasn't much competition because for being a female singer, Japan's a really hard place for young women. There's the Japanese men who don't want anything to do with you, most of them. I'd probably be taller than most of them. And so a lot of the friends that I don't have any friends from that time who still live in Japan, whereas it's normal for blokes to find a nice Japanese girl. And, unlike you and me, we're the freaks in the thing. We found a nice non-Japanese person that we spend our life with, but that's unusual, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And we're definitely the exception.
Yeah. And then how did that sort of transition into, video games? That obvious. For me, I'm actually, I think the last video game I played was like like Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo, probably before you even moved to Japan in '96.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well,
I'm not a gamer.
I don't play them either. I'm not a gamer. And I was in the closet for years and years, going to conventions. And what did you like about this game? And then I just came out. I don't play games. They scare me. Everything's happening too fast, and so I don't play them. But it's basically session work. So you're being hired as a session singer. So if you're a session singer, you just get told to go to a studio, and often it was TV commercials. It was educational, like A, B, C, D, E, F. Those, heaps of content is created every year for the educational market for learning English. And so TV commercials, and then those agencies would get a call from Konami or a Square Enix or saying, we need a singer. Can you give us 3 or 4 singers who have this type of voice? And your demo would get submitted. So in the real world in Los Angeles or something, you would have hundreds of people to choose from. And then that's why I was so lucky in the early 90s. And we're talking about an actual physical cassette tape was my first demo.
Yeah.
And then it was like, whoa, the technology is amazing. We can there's a thing called a CD, and there was no emailing. You had to tacuban your sample. It was a very slow process, and now it's all email, ding, 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 or just look on my site, you can download. But back then it was very, now people use singers in Los Angeles because you can do the session on Skype, sitting in Tokyo, listen, it's like you're literally there because the internet's so fast now, but back in those days. Yeah. So I came at a really great time, and now all the video games have got actual famous singers in them.
Yeah.
Couldn't have kind of happened to me that happened.
Yeah. So obviously, we've all been to weddings, and we all know the type of atmosphere you're trying to create at a wedding, and that would influence how you go about singing. If you're, say, doing a video game, for example, how do you sort of set up the atmosphere that you're trying to create for the person who's playing that game? Do you try to, try to be in character, or try and understand a little bit about the game and what the player wants to experience?
I have no flipping idea. Absolutely not. In fact, later when it's done years ahead, so I have no idea. And the only thing I did a song that went absolutely viral for a game called Tokyo, not a game, an anime called Tokyo Ghoul, and that in that thing they did say, I was like, the song is Glassy Sky, and I was like, Glassy Sky, oh, and they were like, that's great, that's really great, thank you, Donna. And then they were super awkward and all sort of like, they were going to ask me that, like, can you sing naked? Or they looked super awkward. And then they said, can you sing like a dead person? Because that's what the feeling we want for this character and for this part of the story and everything. So it's like, sing like a person who's dead. And it's like, okay, challenge accepted. And so I just, had no emotion. And glassy sky, I'm dead. I have no blood. Like, so that's the biggest note I ever got for how, but most of the time it's more like sing soft in the beginning, now sing a bit louder, and now sing, like it's not that.
Yeah.
And then later on, you hear the song in the context of the game, and it is, that they certainly knew what they were directing me, but at the time I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Which is kind of good, because if I knew what a big deal it was, it would probably make you really nervous.
True. Yeah.
So if I was told this is for the next James Bond movie, and I'm like, oh my God, my mum's going to see this, and you'd be so in your head. Whereas I'm just like, okay.
For sure.
So,
do you know people that sort of play these games that have heard your songs and have sort of commented?
Oh, yeah. It's huge, and it's a worldwide. Like, I've had heaps of fans in Brazil, Mexico, Spain, Russia, and as well as England, America, Australia. Like, it's worldwide. Video games are worldwide, and so it's not just a Western thing where it's not like Hollywood, which is very Western. That's the amazing thing about video gaming, and so my mum and people who don't play games don't know anything about what I do, but people who like, what? Oh my God! Oh no, I heard you! Oh, it's that reaction. It's really big deal.
Yeah. I have a friend who works with a company that is producing certain headphone technology specifically for games, and so he was sort of, and he mentions like some of the games that he's negotiating with the makers of to get the headphone technology in, and it's just going over my head. Okay, but I was chatting to him about it on the gym floor, and someone else overheard and was like, "What, you on that game?" So obviously, I think if you're in that space, if you're in that world and you are interested in gaming, it'd be massive to know people that are involved in those in the production, some aspect of the production of those games. It's interesting.
Yeah, and even like I get asked so many. So what was it like to meet Kojima-san? And that was the director of one of the games, and it's just it's breathless, and I'm just like, I have to. It's like a creative writing exercise, trying to not just say, oh, is it right? Is it right? But you've got to make, because they're just hanging on you. Oh, like, and yeah. But it's probably, if you were really into fishing and you met the world champion bloody fly fisherman, you'd just be like, and I was so choked up, I didn't know how to speak. Yeah. But for us who are not into fly fishing, we're just like, g'day, mate, how you going? We're just totally relaxed. Well, that's what I'm like.
I just want to sort of go off a bit of a sidetrack and talk a little bit about side hustles before we come back to your entertainment career. When I was working at a previous practice at Tokyo Physio, we had these little hot packs up on the thing there. And I remember thinking, oh, I know these. I think I've seen these in Australia. And someone said, oh, Donna, who came in, she's the singer. She actually
dodgy back. He never does. He never does any exercise. That Donna.
How did you get into that? The hotties.
Because I had dodgy back. I just had no idea that you're supposed to exercise and no idea. Like the gym was for losing people need to lose weight, and I was like so skinny that it's like, well,
Right.
I
It was
wasn't
an issue.
need to
Yeah.
go to a gym. So back in the 90s, and so here I am, 96, 97, and there was this physio chiropractic massage moxibustion bloke who spoke English that I would trek from Takadana Baba to Ritsudaikaku, like with massage and do. Oh God. And I'll never forget. I said, "What can I do? My back is just always killing me." And he said, "Exercise." And I just like I straight away like, "Oh, I don't like sweating." So that's and then he gave me a Japanese heat pad, and it was. I now know that they're worth like 50 yen or something. It's like pennies, but I didn't know. So I was like, oh, 10, is this like $10? Because he said it'll put it on, it will stay hot for 12 hours, and it will help loosen up your muscles. And it looked very valuable to me. And he laughed when I took out sen yen. He was like, you can buy these everywhere. And unbeknownst to me, because I couldn't speak Japanese, in wintertime, there's bins overflowing with this product outside of chemists in Japan. And that also in Japan, there's no real pain meds. There's no Nurofen Plus. So when people have pain, they use either cold or heat usually, and they'll go have a bath, and they that would be their first line of attack. So I just thought this was a miracle. And I'd started taking it back to my family in Perth, and I got overcharged or charged for too much luggage from Qantas, because basically it's like carrying sand. And I thought, I can't believe all my family is super healthy, but they're all like, oh, can you get me some of those heat packs, those Japanese heat packs? And it lit up my mind. I thought, oh, if I'm using this for period pain, for back pain, and I know that it's not in Australia, I should bring this to Australia. Here's me, teaching background, no business background. And that's what I got my singing manager at the time to buy some products at the convenience store, look at the back of the pad, and contact the manufacturer. And one of the manufacturers said, yes, the minimum order though is $30,000. So I was like, oh fuck, that's a lot. Excuse me if this is you can edit that out later. Oh gosh, that's a lot. My by jingo. And so that's how it all started. It was like, if I'm using this, if all my family in Perth, and it's nothing to do with being cold, it's all about pain, then I'm onto something here. And I found a company that's now no longer working, the guys, so long ago, in 2004. I got on the phone when I was in Perth and just called people and, oh yeah, send me a box. And I'd sent a whole container load, because the minimum order quantity was a container load. So yeah, I literally didn't know what I was doing. I still don't. And I'm like, just ask people, and people just tell you, oh, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have it, none of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. And have you done sort of other little side hustles like that, or has that sort of been the main thing?
I have to say that is not, Hotties is not a side hustle. Hotties is a full-blown, we do like $1 million. We'll hit 2 million in revenue in Australia. Not me, so that I'm not getting, but that's how many are sold, and it grows like 10. Well, COVID took a hit, but it was growing 20% every year.
Really? Yeah.
Once I was on a call, like one day I was on a call in Australia a few years ago. In one day, 3 different people recommended Hotties to me, my own product.
That's amazing. That's
it is like an Apple Watch. Oh, you got to get one. Oh, it does this and it's amazing. And so it first of all got sold throughout physios in Australia, and then very soon chemists. And then we got it into Chemist Warehouse in 2009. And that was amazing. And then in 2020, just as a pandemic started, I signed a deal with a company in Australia who imports all of Omron's products, called Jaya Davy, to take over running. I was running Australia from Japan, the whole thing. So, and now they do it. So I can concentrate on other things like writing and symphony concerts, which I'm really passionate about. So that's like, it's not a hustle, it's a big thing, and that it supports my creative life. So I don't do TV commercials anymore. I don't do hardly any voiceovers. I'm stopped all that so that I can concentrate on writing and putting together concerts. So it's really huge, and it's I wouldn't call it passive income because it does take a little bit of work from me, but not much.
So then, let's talk about writing and concerts. When did you sort of start on the? Because I saw you recently for the first time in a while, and it sort of never ceased to amaze me how you're doing different things. But you said this sort of started around the pandemic time.
So because I've been doing this concert series called Metal Gearing Concert, which I get to sing 3 or 4 songs from the game, but it's a symphonic concert. An Aussie guy was asked by Konami to arrange all of the music from the games, and this game, I'll compare it to, if you're not into gaming, it's like the Bond series. So imagine going to a concert and all of the top songs from the Bond movies, from Roger Moore up to, so imagine this is a very rich vein of content, but also they showed cutscenes from the game. So people come, they watching the scenes, and people sobbing in the audience, sobbing. And I've done this concert in New York, many times in Tokyo, Osaka, Paris, Los Angeles, and I'm telling you, it's like a drug. So I'm like, I want more of this. Hit me up. The harmonics of live music, literally, vibrating like boom, 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 boom. It's electrifying, and that's why people still go to live concerts, because it's nothing like it. I negotiated with all of the companies using a really great letter that the people at the Australian Embassy wrote, which kind of framed it in Japanese that it would be a diplomatic nightmare and a cultural disaster if said software company did not give Donna Burke the right to sing this song in Australia. And it was like a magic wand. It was like, if I was asking, they'd be like, that's a little bit difficult. But when you send a letter with the Australian Embassy saying Donna Burke's like a cultural, they just laid it on thick. It was brilliant. And that worked like a charm. So I got all of the rights to sing these incredible songs, and songs that I hadn't even sung, but greatest hits. So I've put together a greatest hits concert of mine, and plus half of it is mine, but half of it is songs that people, I love this song. I didn't actually sing it in the game, but people love it. So that's what I'm shopping now in Australia, and I'm going down. I think Melbourne. I don't know people from Melbourne out there, but your arts people and game people and film. It is the cultural capital. They are just so open to. So I'm going to go down in March and do some meetings for that. So that is a dream, to be able to do my own concert.
Yeah.
So that I've been working on that, and I've also around. I met at a Comic-Con I attended in Australia in 2019. I met the voice actor who is in Metal Gear Solid, David Hayter, and he and I are in the same game, which is Metal Gear Solid, and we were on a panel together. But it turns out that David Hayter is not just in a bloody video game doing this iconic voice. He wrote X-Men. He wrote X-Men 2, and he is a bona fide hot writer, lives in Hollywood, and that's his gig now. So here I am on the panel, sort of the same level, and I quickly realised that, he's this guy sort of got way more famous things going on than me. But anyway, super nice guy. And I told him about an idea I had, and he's for a musical about a geek from Australia who gets sent to Japan. And he was like, yes, that's good. Musical, too hard, Donna, just do a TV series. So the way he said it was like, oh, a cafe latte, why not just ask for an iced tea? It's way easier, less fuss. That was just get 20 million from Netflix. So in December to 2019 to March 2020, thank you, Hotties, because it pays me to just do creative stuff. I worked on writing the novel of King of Cosplay, which has now been renamed Japan International High. And long story short, David came on, and I just taught myself how. I thought, I've never written anything, but how hard can it be? This is a story of my life. How hard can it be to write a story that kids would read? And then same thing a year ago, I thought, how hard can it be to write a screenplay? I mean, come on. So I've now got into screenplay writing. And David's come on as creative director, as creative, as a co-creator for this show that we're shopping at the moment. And also I've created 2 more shows, and one of them just got picked up by an incredible producer who produced The Kissing Booth, which, if you're into romantic movies, was a #1 movie on Netflix in 2019. And she lives in Perth, and she's come on as an EP for a new TV series I'm shopping, which is just incredible. So I've gone from literally how hard can it be to, I'm in the biz, baby. I feel like I finally got somewhere, which is super exciting.
Yeah, I think that's I've found the title of the episode. How hard can it be? So for people, and most people wouldn't be familiar with how that industry works. If you've written became a TV show, and then you've found someone that's going to produce it, how long is that process before we actually get to watch it on? Like, is it picked up by picked up by a producer that's then funded by Netflix or another network, or how does it actually work like that?
Well, you know what? I haven't got to that part of the book yet.
Right.
So I'm only 1 page ahead of you. That was like my whole teaching career.
Yeah.
So that's the fun of it. I'm a beginner. But I've got I've an incredible experienced co-producer that David Hayter also works with, and she's also from Perth. And you just make it up as you go along. But it's definitely about connections, people, who you want to work with. So we're going to put first of all, we get funding. We put a writer's room together, and we had a name for one person, and we asked another writer that, well, I've been interviewing writers. So we take my idea and then we punch it up with really smart, funny writers. And actually, writing is rewriting. So what's interesting about this industry is very collaborative. It's very, you can't be too precious. You can't, people who are paranoid or frightened of their ideas being stolen, or they'll crash and burn. You just have to be very generous, very, like, I've got plenty of amazing ideas. If you want this one, so my improv background has really helped, where you're just yes-ending on your a lot of listening skills, building on what other people have offered, rather than like waiting for their lips to stop so that you can just say what those people forget about it. So I feel really, I'm doing a few courses about the business that are based out of America, and it's really kind of sad to see people who probably way more talented at writing than me, but they just don't have the soft people skills.
Yeah.
And that it really, and there's a lot of, I found that when I had DAG music, which is another thing I used to do, which I don't do anymore, a talent agency that I founded and ran from 2004 until last year. And that there's a lot of very B-grade talent, very mediocre voice talent, but they always get the job because they've got really great soft skills. They're very easy to work with. And my Hollywood friends are saying, yeah, it's like that at the A level as well, the A-listers. It's the exception to be an asshole. It's not the rule, because you just no one wants to work for you. So this writer said, "Oh, Aaron," because we were pitching, would this person suit the writer's room for the TV show, which is called Curveball at the moment, everyone, coming to you in 2025, probably. But and she was like, no, if you really like someone who's smart but super argumentative, and then straight away you're like, yeah, nah, I'll never work with him.
Yeah.
But if I was doing a really show about that needed that kind of energy, but no, it's a hard no.
And have you got other ideas for upcoming projects? What have you got going around in the Donna Burke brain?
Yeah, and that's the other thing I've learned, is that writers constantly need to have a whole stack of ideas that they can pitch. So you go to a meeting and execs say, what else have you got? What else have you got? Well, a blind orthodontist adopts a dog and falls in love. Yeah, nah, what else have you got? So you have to be not precious about your, ideas. No, we're not looking for that. We did blind orthodontist last year, and it's pretty. So what I've got coming up is a rom-com, which is set in Tokyo and Australia, which features a burnt-out voice actor. So I've got there's Australian Japanese actress I really want to be in it, and I really want Magda Zabansky. I've basically written the roles with these actors in mind.
Wow.
And I put and the other interesting thing about this business is that I sold the show for Curveball based on a 12-page document with lots of pictures. The secret, no one reads your scripts. No, everyone just assumes you can write, but it's all about the idea. Is this a good idea or not? Is this something I want to see more of? And I don't need to read, enter. She opens the door, and which is like a 90-page document that might take me an hour to read. But so I've been putting pitch decks together for Curveball, for Voice of Love, which is a rom-com, which I'd love Netflix to do. Maybe I'd like to do $10 million budget, shot in Tokyo and Bustleton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And the next idea might be something to do with improv. I like the rom-com space. I like a happy ending. I watch television, and I don't watch television. I watch stuff to feel good, and I also want it to be. I want to know there's a happy ending. Yeah. That said, I do like The Boys on Amazon, which is very violent. And have you seen that? It's on Amazon.
I haven't actually. No. Worth watching.
It's and normally I hate sort of violent stuff, but it's just so funny and so like. Yeah, so, but for me, I like writing, like Ted Lasso type stuff. Have you seen that, Sam?
I haven't actually seen Ted Lasso either. I'll have to watch both of those.
Heartwarming, funny. You have a smile on your face. You might have a bit of a giggle, and it's very plausible, likable characters, even if they're doing naughty things. But I don't want to spend time with assholes.
Yeah.
In reality, or
all your characters.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. I guess with all the things that you've done in your life and the way that you've pivoted and done different things, what are some of the big lessons that you've got out of all the things that you've done? And what do you think that people can learn from your life experience?
Oh, well, you can see a video I put up on 10 mistakes you can make in Japan on YouTube. That's a good. What are the lessons? Because I think the lessons are constantly changing, so it depends where you are in your life. So my lesson for this year is don't be so nice. So that's probably not very helpful, but I'm too empathetic, and I have spent way too much time in my life helping other people.
Mm.
and not prioritizing my stuff. And
Yeah.
so, and that, comes from all sorts of family, how I grew up, and how I got noticed in a family of 7 children, and how to get a limited resource of attention. So that's where I'm trying to say no and put boundaries, because I think I feel, looking back, the whole DAG Music agency, which really I got into because to help somebody out. So my advice for myself would have been, that goal of that agency was too small a goal, and you were hiding behind that to avoid dreaming big and making a huge. I want to work on a global scale, whether it's Hollywood or games. And even though other people looked at me, wow, that's really cool, you've got a studio in Roppongi, and that left me cold. And then once I got into that, it was really hard to get out of it. And the pandemic really saved my bacon, because it was like, oh, what a shame. And it was like a massive relief to get out of that industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was in it because I was so nice. I could, oh, you need a singer who's Turkish. Oh. And I so identified with people's problems, that we need this sort of actor or singer or whatever for their project. I drop everything and I just put all my attention to that. So
yeah.
And I think I be honest, go big or go home. If that's really, don't get distracted by little things, and that be really. I would have just told myself, is this your childhood dream to run a bloody agency? No. Well, then why are you doing? Oh, well, so and so else, and I was too nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I want to be too nice to the people that matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not saying, I'm not saying, you kids get your own bloody dinner. I've been too nice for too long. No, I'm not saying that, but just to be people. I maybe men relate to this, but a lot of women relate to people pleasing.
Yeah. I mean, you only have so much sort of emotional resources, and you need to prioritize where you're going to direct those throughout your life. So yeah, I think that's a really, really interesting point.
So true. Yeah. But when you're in it, and it's really hard to sort of extricate yourself from it. So I really got saved by the pandemic, because I got absolutely shat on by the 2008 Lehman shock and then the earthquake. And so the 2020 pandemic actually gave me a lot. I was like, okay, finally, international disaster that I can benefit from. Looking on the positive side.
Yeah.
Sorry for the people who lost loved ones. I'm being a bit,
yeah. For people who want to find out a bit more about what you're doing and you follow some of the things that you're working on, where can people find out more about you? Do you have websites? I guess there's different platforms for all the different things that you're doing, but where can people find you on the internet?
Probably Twitter at the Donna Burke. I'm not very active. It's mainly pictures of my cats. So I'm on Instagram, but I'm not very good on. I really can't be bothered with social media. I get so distracting myself that I've got all my notifications turned off. But I do a comedy show sometimes in Tokyo on the last Friday of the month called Improvzilla. So if you're wanting a taste of comedy in an English setting and that you'll forget that you're in Japan, then check that out, Improvzilla.
Okay, very good. And where do you do that?
In Shibuya at the Crocodile. Okay. So the show will be the last Friday of this month.
Oh, very cool. So we'll put some of those in the show notes, and I'll put a few of the shows that you're working on so people can look forward to them. And
Thank you. The titles might change, but yeah, it's very exciting, and I'm really thrilled.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see the title now, and then maybe in two years' time, you see that come up on Netflix, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks, mate.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm really glad that I just I want to be encouraged, and I'm hoping my story is encouraging that to others.
Yes, I think it's a very encouraging story. I think that it's just you got to make the most of the opportunities that are presented, but you also got to do the things that you need to do to seek those opportunities, and you've obviously done that very well throughout your life.
Again, my encouragement is for people. You don't have to have a degree. Just Google something, and you'll work it out.
Maybe not physiotherapy. You do need a degree to do that, but most other things.
So, except outside of the medical space. Thank you for that disclaimer.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Donna. It's been great to hear a little bit about your life journey in a bit more detail, and I'm sure the listeners and viewers will really get a kick out of hearing it too. So, yeah, thank you very much for coming on, and have a great rest of the day.
My pleasure.